I look a bit short today. You know, I should go over that side today. Hello! Welcome back to We Are Wool People. My name's Ailsa, and on this channel we talk about knitting. Come sit next to me, grab a cup of tea, and let's talk about what's going on. I'm wearing today my Eken Sweater by the Knit Purl Girl because it's really cold. Suddenly winter is upon us, and that is fantastic news for us knitters, isn't it? Because it just means that we can get nice and cozy and hunker down in our knitwear. And also it means that you get really cold rainy days where you don't have to feel guilty about sitting on the couch watching the Netflix and knitting to your heart's content. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how I would plan my perfect knitwear collection. You know, I think as knitters, we've got such a wonderful opportunity to create knitwear and pieces in our wardrobe that are tailored especially to ourselves, to our own personal taste, that suit our own personal style, and that really give us an amazing sense of achievement and pride when we wear them. I think one of the great things to do is to spend some time planning your knitted wardrobe. I do know that for many years I never did that, and I just used to make I did used to love knitting still. It didn't stop me from really loving the craft, but I did used to kind of lurch from project to project, and I didn't always have a clear picture of why I was making what I was making. And certainly because I always considered myself to be a process knitter, I wasn't really that fussed on the outcome. And I also know that in the last couple of years, particularly since starting this channel, I've made much more of a conscious effort to make things that I think that I'm going to wear. And I really do think that that has really enhanced and improved my knitting experience, and certainly the way I feel about my knitted objects and the connection that I have with them, which sounds kind of strange, but it's true. So for example, today I'm wearing my Eken Sweater by the Knit Purl Girl that I made in this wonderful colour, and I absolutely love it. So today I sat down and thought about what items I really would love to have in my own perfect ultimate autumn winter knitted capsule wardrobe. And so that got me thinking about planning and what really are the elements that I need to think about for planning my own ultimate perfect autumn capsule wardrobe. So I jotted a few things down, and I think that they're useful for anyone. So I'm going to share them with you today if you don't mind. And at the end, I'm going to go through about 25 patterns that I think that are perfect for the ultimate autumn winter capsule wardrobe for Australia and for our climate. So if you are not interested in the theory of planning your autumn capsule wardrobe, duck ahead to this number here to look at the patterns only. But in the meantime, let's just talking about the planning. And this is an interesting one because I think that this is something that I've really failed in the past. And it's difficult to describe, but one of the things that I had to do was I had to let go of my ego. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means is that for many years, right from even when I sort of started knitting, I started knitting sort of seriously in the early 2000s. And I didn't knit things for my children or even garments so much. I almost straight away after I started knitting within the first couple of years was really drawn to lace knitting. And so I made many extremely intricate and difficult lace shawls during the first couple of years of my knitting. And I think that it's because I actually do have a bit of a competitive streak, and I also, if I'm going to do something, I'm all or nothing. I like to do it really well or not at all, which is why I failed at piano as a child, because I started piano lessons, and because I couldn't play Chopin after 2 weeks, I just didn't want to do it at all. So I either want to be good at it or I don't want to do it. And the thing about knitting is that that's a journey that takes a lot of practice, like any kind of skill. You know, if you do it for long enough, you will actually improve at it. But I really liked knitting, and I liked knitting complicated and difficult things. And I did that regardless of whether or not those complicated or difficult things would actually be items that I would reach for and wear in my wardrobe. And I'll give you an example of two things that I knitted straight to stroke my ego and not to enjoy the wearing experience of them. And one of them is there, sitting behind me. That is Mari Wallen's Primrose, and I knitted that a few years ago, and I knitted it from a kit that I bought from Mari Wallen. And I never wear that pullover. It's beautifully knitted. I'm very proud of it, but I actually hate it and I never wear it. I wore it once to a Worldwide Knit in Public Day, and if the truth be known, literally just to show off that I'd made it. But that pullover is the furthest thing from my style or my colours than anything almost that I've ever knitted, and I never wear it. So I had to come to terms with, and since I started this channel I think I've really improved, is that, and compare that to this Eken Sweater, which was actually a walk in the park to knit. I love this jumper and I don't love that jumper at all. And I'll give you another example of another thing that I made basically because of Emperor's New Clothes syndrome that everyone was making at the time. And I thought that I wanted to jump on that bandwagon and make one as well. And it's another thing that took a really long time that I never ever wear. And here it is here. It's this huge wrap, and I think it's one of Andrea Mowry's fade collection. So this again, I knitted because of what was fashionable and what people were knitting out there on the social media and the blogs and everything back in the day. And I didn't really pay enough attention to whether this kind of knit was me or not. And I never, ever wear it. It sits in my cupboard and it just goes completely untouched because I feel like I'm too short to wear a wrap that's quite this voluminous. And also, I just don't have anywhere where where this kind of garment would suit the occasion, because if I'm either at work, where I either work from home or work in the office, or I'm kind of on the go, and this sort of thing just falls off your shoulders, it's bulky. I've always got a handbag or a crossbody bag, so it's difficult to get a handbag on and off. This kind of wrap is absolutely not something that really suits my lifestyle or my wardrobe, in spite of the fact that I spent a really long time knitting it many years ago. And so that's what I mean by letting go of ego. For me, I need to, when I'm looking at things that I want to knit, is that I need to look at them from a perspective of whether I'm going to wear them, and not so much whether I'm going to be really impressed with myself because I made it and it was difficult. So I think it's worth letting go of the idea that if you want to have a collection of knitted items in your wardrobe that are, a capsule collection, they don't just have to be neutral coloured basics that go with all kinds of things. Because in terms of your knitwear, because they are essentially layering pieces generally, then they are the pieces that you can use to express yourself. They're the ones that you can have the beautiful colours and the lovely textures, and you can really, really appeal to your own personal taste, when in fact you might wear, black jeans all the time, or you might wear blue jeans all the time, or like me, you might wear elasticated waist linen trousers all the time. And then you can accent those with your knits that really say something about who you are as a person and that you really have a connection with. Because when you make something, if you've knitted it, then every single stitch has been through your hands. There's a real connection with what you're knitting. So I think that as knitters, it's a great idea to take the opportunity to really express yourself with colour and design in your knitwear pieces, because not every piece that you knit is going to last forever in your wardrobe, because there are such a thing as trends, and there are things that just in terms of length or maybe silhouette that after a few years you don't feel comfortable wearing anymore, because they do tend to be quite old-fashioned, and sometimes even the colour can be a little bit out of date. But that's not to say, of course, that there aren't some basics that really would be appropriate for any wardrobe, because of course there are. But I do think that it doesn't have to be always in a neutral colour, and it doesn't always have to be a featureless garment in order for it to tick your boxes for a successful capsule wardrobe item. And I think the key to this really is that you should knit what makes you happy in colours that make you happy. So that's what I'm going to do when I start to plan what I'm going to make for my ultimate autumn capsule wardrobe, is that I'm not going to always think that everything I make has to be a neutral basic. Number 3, knitting doesn't have to be expensive to look expensive. If even looking expensive is the goal, and I don't think it is always. What I mean by that is that what makes a hand knitted item beautiful is its finishing techniques, the smoothness and evenness of the knitting, the choice of pattern and its suitability for the yarn that's been chosen, and not that it's been made from expensive fibres or exclusive yarn. I definitely do think that when you buy really cheap, fast fashion, almost throwaway clothes, that you don't have that kind of emotional connection to them and that you don't value them as much as you do the things that you have invested more money in, and certainly nowhere near as much as the things that you have invested your blood, sweat and tears, time, money and yarn into when you make them yourself. So the hand making has a lot less to do with how much you paid for the yarn and a lot more to do with how much effort that you put into the process. Now, so you don't have to knit with really expensive yarn to make beautiful capsule pieces for your wardrobe. And you don't have to hold a strand of silk mohair with absolutely every single thing that you knit. Although, you know, I do that a lot. But you don't have to. As a matter of fact, I would say that alpaca yarn, 100% alpaca yarns, which you can often get at a reasonable price, particularly the Peruvian alpaca. Don't really want to think about why that is, but you can definitely get alpaca yarn at some very reasonable prices. And alpaca yarn is really warm. It often has that gorgeous halo that you would get from carrying a silk mohair along with another yarn. And I think that you can definitely use that yarn held, 100% alpaca yarn held single to get a similar kind of effect if you're looking for a fuzzy effect on your knitted garment. Point on number 3 is that knitting doesn't have to be expensive to look expensive. Number 4, this is going to take a long time. Knitting is a slow craft. You've only got 2 hands. These 2 hands can only work on one thing at a time. There are only 24 hours in the day. So there's no rush when hand making items for your own capsule wardrobe. Be patient with yourself and allow yourself the time to hold your work to a high standard. That's one thing that I really would recommend any new knitter or even an experienced knitter bear in mind when they're making anything, particularly if they want to keep it as an item in their wardrobe to be on high rotation for years to come. Hold yourself to a high standard. Try and do the best you can, and if you look back and think that something down below doesn't look as good as you'd like it to, take it back and do it again. It's only knitting, there's time. Be patient with yourself, but by the same token, hold yourself to a high standard. And don't always say, oh, that doesn't matter, or oh, that's a design feature, or, a galloping horse won't see that. I'm not saying be a perfectionist, of course, because it's knitting, it's not Swiss watch assembly, as Flegel said, but it is something that if you want to be proud of it and if you want to have that emotional connection with it, it's definitely worth holding yourself to a high standard and knitting it as best you can. And I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like my knitting to be as good as I can possibly make it. And I really encourage other people to be the same. Because you know what? And holding yourself to a high standard is really worth it, because you deserve to have a knitted item that you're really proud of, that you know is lovingly and beautifully made, and that you can look at and admire your skill as a craftsperson, or admire your development, or even admire your journey to see that you came from a beginner like we all did, because everybody started as a beginner. End rant. And another thing is that knitwear collections will change over time. So I know we don't want to be slaves to fashion, but the truth is there are things that if you made them 10 years ago, you wouldn't wear them now. And one of the examples that I'll use is the waterfall cardigan. So there was a really big trend both in streetwear and in hand knitting to make these waterfall cardigans with the open fronts where the front sort of, falls down longer than the back. Now, I personally wouldn't wear one of those now, even though I've made quite a few of those waterfall front cardigans, because I think that I just think that they're dated now and they just don't look good. And so even if you don't want to be a slave to fashion, the things you make are going to change over time. That's my hot take, and you might not agree with that, but I do really think that it's worth having what you make to be a nod to fashion, not so much the trends, but certainly to the acknowledging that the silhouettes do change, and that it's worth keeping up with it if you do want to look like you know what you do fashion-wise. If you don't care, at the end of the day, you've got to knit what makes you happy, and only you can be responsible for that. And I guess in the similar vein, not just the fact that silhouettes and fashion changes over time, but also techniques change over time. I mean, if you're averse to knitting something top down because you've always knitted bottom up and that's just the way you were taught and that's what you've done for decades, then I really think you should probably take yourself outside and kick yourself up the bum, because things change and sometimes techniques improve. And I do think that the massive improvements in neckline shaping and shoulder shaping that have been made possible by all those fantastic different top-down constructions are really actually revolutionised the beauty of hand knitting and hand knitted garments. But by the same token, if you've never knitted anything bottom up and you won't do it because you think that those patterns are inferior, then you also might want to have a look at the reasons why some patterns are better constructed bottom up. Because bottom up patterns can in fact improve the structure of a garment. Sometimes even side seams and shoulder seams are actually beneficial to the way that a garment sits on your body. And decreases look better than increases. There you go, there's another hot take. So when you're knitting from the bottom up, any kind of shaping is usually a decrease, not an increase. And so I actually think that in a lot of cases, decreases do look better than increasing. The other thing about knitting from the bottom up that can be beneficial is if there is all over cabling or a stitch pattern and you're knitting from the bottom up, then that gives your brain a time to memorize the stitch pattern, familiarize yourself with the kind of nuance of the pattern writing, get familiar with the way that the designer writes the pattern. And you don't really have to start worrying about all those complicated things that are happening together in terms of shaping for necklines, armholes, necks, shoulders, until you've already knitted halfway up the garment. And that actually can really help, because then by the time you've gotten to here, if there's a stitch pattern you have to remember, then you're really familiar with it, you've got the muscle memory, and therefore doing this last little decrease bit can actually be much easier. Some people would prefer to get all the complicated stuff done and out of the way when they first start, and then once they get to the armholes it's plain sailing. But you know, people are different, of course. Now I just want to make a note, hang on. Now just in relation to bottom up versus top down, I just want to clarify something I said on a video a couple of weeks ago where one commenter fully came at me about what I said. I actually blocked her because she was really quite extreme. I said that sometimes Sari Nordland's lace patterns are upside down and that you can tell. Now, the reason that they are upside down and that you can tell is thusly. Are you ready? This is a book of Japanese lace patterns that Sari Nordland and other designers, there's no shade on Sari Nordland, she's an extraordinarily good designer, but she frequently uses these stitch patterns as inspiration for the stitch patterns on her beautifully textured and lace patterned garments, which I love, and I've knitted several of them and I will knit several more. They're just absolutely beautiful. Now let me show you something about a lace chart. I'll show you quickly so you can't freeze the screen and steal the chart, because these are bought patterns. Let me pick one that is really similar to something I've knitted from hers. Oh, I'm enjoying myself. Wait a minute. Oh, all of them are beautiful. There you go. Oh, right, come back. Oh, I was miles away then. Okay. Have a look at this lace chart from this Japanese lace pattern dictionary. There's the pattern that you can see here, and there's the chart that you can see here. Now, by definition, if I knit this, I start here and I knit across, and then I turn around and knit back and across and back and across and back and across and back and across and back. And by definition, because that is a chart, I start at the bottom and I go upwards. Now, what happens if I design this pattern to be top down? Can I show you what happens? That's what happens. Yes, it does. And now I start at this number and I go down, because I start at the top and I go down and I knit the same chart, but that chart now looks like, I'm going to get the right one, looks like that, as opposed to that. And that is a fact. That's not my opinion. That's the way it works. A charted motif, if knitted from the top down, is upside down, at the risk of being a massive smart ass. Right. She's on fire today, aren't I? All right. Let's get into the patterns, shall we? Way better. Right. So what is in a perfect capsule wardrobe for me? I'm going to grab my computer. See my flowers? It was my 28th wedding anniversary on Saturday. And my husband was in Queensland and I was down here. And he sent me some beautiful flowers, which is rare in our 28 years of marriage, but greatly appreciated. Anyway, so what specifically would I knit for my ultimate winter capsule wardrobe? Well, I've got 25 patterns that I'm going to run through. And I made a bundle on Ravelry that I've called Knitwear Capsule 2025. I'll link it below. You should go and have a look at it. All right. Now she's crying. I might have to get her. Ugh. There. All right. Hopefully she'll sit down here and be a good girl now. So what I need is items that are comfortable, washable, classic. I need a mixture of colourful things and neutral things. And I need layering pieces. And I also don't want any more bulky knits. Now, the first thing I'd like is a Crewneck Pullover. Now, I don't have one. And I don't know why I don't have one, because I seem to knit a lot of jumpers and yet no Crewneck Pullovers. So my top picks are the Eken Sweater by Knit, which is DK weight. The recommended yarn is Cardigan Cashmere Classic, but I think you could probably just as easily knit this jumper using Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury and get a really beautiful result. The sizes go from an extra small through to a 3XL, which isn't as size inclusive as probably what it could be. The 3XL, the largest bust size is 51¼ inches. If I were to knit this jumper, I would actually probably use the Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 8-ply, and I'd probably go for a nice bright colour, maybe even their lilac, which would give me a jumper almost identical to this. I probably should move out. The next pattern I like is the Sari Nordland Odette, and I like this one more because it's actually shorter and it's a little bit more close fitting. It's not so much of an oversized knit, so it would work really well as a layering piece. This pattern is also a DK weight with 20 stitches per 10 centimetres. She's talking about holding knitting for olive merino with knitting for olive soft silk mohair. Sari's patterns go from a finished bust circumference from 31.5 inches through to 63 inches. So this one way more size inclusive, which I also do really appreciate from Sari. She's great like that. And I really love this knit. It was actually designed in January 2021. There's only 93 projects, and I'm surprised because it's a real full classic crew neck sweater. Another one that I just want to give a mention to is the Isolde Teague Any Day sweatshirt. Do you want to go? Oh no, you're just turning around. The Isolde Teague's Any Day sweatshirt. This was designed in October 2023. It's got 200, pardon me, pardon me. Oh, stone cold tea. This one was designed in 2023 and it's got 235 projects with a 4.7 overall rating. Again, it's a DK weight with 22 stitches per 10 centimetres, and she recommends Sandnesgarn Duo for this one. What I really like about this, it has got that really fantastic sweatshirt detail where It's got that little V that you sometimes get in store-bought sweatshirts. So this one would be just perfect in a pale grey, wouldn't it? And again, this would work in Bendigo Wool and Mills Luxury too. Another classic crew neck is the Lento by John O'Helan. 3,500 projects. It's made with fingering yarn on a 15 stitch gauge and a 4mm needle. Okay, yes, made with 2 fingering yarns held together to give a 15 stitch gauge on a 4mm needle. So that's a slightly chunkier gauge than the 2 DK weights we were looking at just then. The next capsule wardrobe piece would be a basic cardigan that people are talking about, either a V-neck or a crew neck cardigan. I actually don't think that a basic cardigan is for me in a capsule wardrobe setting. I don't wear cardigans very much and I don't really like them that much. And I did, when I worked in the office full time, I did used to have a cardigan on the back of my chair that I did get on and off because, you know, air conditioning in offices is really kind of unpredictable. But I find that I don't really wear cardigans very much at home, and I don't really wear them much when I'm out and about either. So I'll just give 2 cardigans honourable mentions here in the basic cardigan pattern range. One of them is the Harlow cardigan by Kadri, which is a DK weight made by, holding a lace weight and a DK weight together to give a worsted weight yarn of 19 stitches. Can you hear her? She's just, oh, making all that noise. Why are you making all that noise? What's the matter? Not enough attention. All right. 43 inches through to 69 inches. I think they're probably talking about a garment measurement there, not necessarily a body measurement, because this cardigan is quite oversized. Very simple drop shoulder, I think. Yep. Very simple drop shoulder cardigan with quite deep cuffs at the arms. You know, exactly what it says on the pack. It's a really simple top-down cardigan. Another one that I really love too is the Champagne cardigan by Petite Knit. Same kind of thing. It's a raglan shape, top-down, double knit button band, a worsted gauge that's made by holding a DK weight and a lace weight together. Another quick mention is the Teddy Deer Cardigan Light by Kadri. I like this one because it's a little bit more cropped. I'm only 5 foot tall, and so some of these longer cardigans, they really do swim on me. I like this one also because it's got a bit more of a balloon sleeve. This is a fingering weight cardigan recommended for an expensive yarn. It's recommended for Cardiff Cashmere Brushlight. But for me, I don't think that a basic cardigan is exactly what I need for my capsule wardrobe. I would rather put in this area something that a lacy feminine top, and my top picks would be the Champagne Pullover by Sari Nordland. Fingering and lace held together to give a DK weight of 20 stitches. She's got a size range that goes from a bust circumference of 37.5 inches through to 69 inches. Typical Sari Nordland, extremely size inclusive and generous number of pattern sizes. I love this pullover. It has, again, like we were just saying, a very Japanese stitch pattern inspired, full-blown cable and lace work all over the entire sweater. It's a drop shoulder. I'd say it's made from the top down. All of her patterns pretty much are. And I love this. I would make it in cream, almost identical to the one that Sari's got here. Another pattern I really like is this Pierre sweater by Johanna Gerisch. It is designed to be a light fingering and lace held together to give a sport weight gauge at 24 stitches per 10 centimetres. The sizing on it goes from XXX through to 5XL, so it really size inclusive as well. Minimum bust circumference of 99 centimetres through to 103 centimetres. That's a really size inclusive range there. This one is quite similar in that it does have an all over cable and lace motif that is offset throughout the whole pullover. It's got twisted rib around the neckline, twisted rib around the bottom, drop shoulder rib as well. Is it? I think it could be a set-in sleeve actually. Let me have a look. It is a drop shoulder. You knit from the top down and then pick up and knit the sleeves. So that's the Pierre sweater by Johanna Gerisch. Another pattern that I would put in this category is the Gal sweater by Masha Ziablakova. I've mentioned this before. I'm definitely going to make that. The next category is sleeveless top. The great thing about a sleeveless top is you can really experiment with colour and texture and pattern because a sleeveless top for an autumn capsule wardrobe is always going to be a layering piece. You're either going to have something underneath it and have it over the top, or you're going to wear it underneath with something on top of that. In this category, I really like the Sailor Swift top, and I would make it striped like Veronica has in her sample. I reckon that would be great for an autumn winter wardrobe underneath a jacket or a cardigan. I love the Maggie vest by Petite Knit. And there she goes again, standing there in her balloon jeans and her black sandals in the gutter. This has got buttons down the front, and so I really think that this has got the opportunity for a lot of great personalisation in terms of colour, and also in your button choice. I really do love that Maggie vest. There's a top here that I have recently seen, only in the last couple of days, and that's this Hey Sailor by Andrea Mowry. Now, I don't normally go for Andrea Mowry's patterns because I actually think that she's got a problem designing a neckline. I think that almost every one of her patterns that I see, whilst they're amazingly beautifully photographed, don't look good in the back neck. This top really appeals to me because I think it's really unusual, and I think that it's got such great opportunity to really express yourself in your colour choice here. So I would make this Hey Sailor top as a layering piece to go over skirts and trousers and whatnot, because I just think that this is really the kind of thing that you could get a lot of compliments on if you wore it out. In 31 stitches. So this slip stitch pattern, this mosaic stitch pattern, is a really fine gauged knit. So again, it'd take a long time, it'd be a lot of work, but I do really, really like this pattern. That's the Hey Sailor top by Andrea Mowry. Other honourable mentions in that category are the twist loop top by Other Loops and the Moon Crush tank. That Moon Crush tank, because it's the graphic 3 colours across the front of it, again, I reckon that would be a really fantastic statement piece to wear all year round in Australia. Actually, be great summer knit as well, and I really like that knit. It was designed in June 2022. It's got 382 projects. I love this one in the pattern page that's got the cream, the rust and the grey. I think that colour combination is a real classic and looks fantastic, and I would make that Moon Crush tank. The next category is t-shirts, and again, great opportunity for you to express yourself in by making something that's not just a plain stocking stitch t-shirt. Although if you were going to make a plain stocking stitch t-shirt, you can't go past, in my opinion, the Tolster tee by Rebecca Clow and the Feels Right tee by Lily Kate France. I would also recommend that you look at Lily Kate France for any summer top. I just think that's really where she comes into her own. I think that her tops and tees, all of them, are really considered, really well designed, great size inclusivity. I love the Feels Right tee in that royal blue, and I also love her Poisoned Apple top, which is knit with shabui silk to give a sheer neckline, a little puffy sleeve, and then a more opaque body. I love all of Lily Kate France's designs. I've never knitted anything from hers from my memory, but I definitely want to remedy that really soon. Honourable mentions also to the Yearist top, the Selwood tee by Caitlin Hunter, and the Fleur tee by Brianna Mason. This Fleur tee has really got the vibe of a little pointelle undertop, which I think is really cute. I reckon if you made that you'd get a lot of wear out of it. It's a fingering weight pattern designed for a yarn I've never heard of, but it's a 30 stitch gauge. I'm sure you could find lots of yarns to fit that gauge. It's a pointelle lace tee knitted in a fingering weight cotton linen, breezy top, delicate yet rustic with cotton linen yarn. You know, there's a lot of those out. Matter of fact, I think you could probably do it in drop spell. Love all of them. I'll put them on screen, and they're in the bundle if you want to go and have a look. Next category, now we're into accessories, and I'll just run through a couple of these really quick ones that caught my eye that I like. One of them is the double knit scarf by Hello Hig Life. It's designed in a DK weight, In this particular instance, it's in Cardiff Cashmere Classic, but you're only looking at 250 to 350 metres of yarn. So this is a perfect project for that 1 or 2 skeins of something really special. And I love the way that this is giving you the volume that you would put under a coat on a really cold day without the bulk, because it doesn't come much further down. And it's also not a dicky, which I think they are a little bit weird, to be honest with you. I think this double knit scarf is absolutely beautiful, and it would be a fantastic gift knit. I love the way that you just knit, you cast off and make a little slit in one side of the scarf, and then when you wear it, you just insert the other side through there to give that fantastic little wrap look. I love it, the double knit scarf. Similarly, the Magnolia Ascot by Purl Soho, which would be a free pattern designed in their Simply Yak, another luxury yarn. The way that this is similar to a very short petite knit, you're joking me, right? So this has got a similar shape to a Sophie scarf, except it's much shorter, and again it's got that hole where you slide one side of the scarf through so that it doesn't fall off, and you can wear it under your jackets. I reckon those two little patterns are both genius, and they would be fantastic gift knits. Also good capsule wardrobe knits, and perfect opportunity to give yourself a pop of colour in your favourite colour. Beanies and Hats, I love the Muscle Borough, and I also like this wheat ear hat by Lisa Hannes. You can see the top of this wheat ears hat has the little sort of stick up bit, and I noticed in the shops this year that that's actually really trendy, even though it's a little bit divisive because it does look a bit strange. I'll also mention, just while I'm here, because I'm finished now, is that conspicuous by their absence. Oh, wait. There's another hat that I really like the look of that I saw on Smash Knit's post yesterday, and it's called the Curiosity hat. It's a great hat. It's got one side textured colourwork knitting, which I think is probably a mosaic knit, and on the other side it's just plain stocking stitch. So it means you can either wear it with the textured side on the outside altogether, or you can fold up the brim and have part stocking stitch and part textured knits. And I really love that. I really liked Ash's one that she made, and it made me add that to my capsule wardrobe bundle. Now, I don't know if she's watching here, but Ash uses a word of the month, and her word of the month was inconspicuous. But I'm just going to say, I'm going to finish up here saying that conspicuous by their absence in this roundup of patterns are, I didn't add any hoods, because even though I like them, I think that they're a flash in the pan. You'll also probably notice that a Milady's dress is not in the list of my capsule wardrobe items. So why the bloody hell I'm making one, I really don't know, but I am making one still. I didn't put any cowls in my list of capsule items because, again, I think that they're weird and only actually worn by knitters, and I don't like them. I didn't put any bigger scarves in my capsule knits episode today, but there are a couple in the bundle because I do think that if you do live in a cold climate, then a big snuggly scarf is something that you probably would wear. I don't wear them because I'm too short, and because in my climate I don't really have the need for them. And if I'm going to make one of those double knit scarves or a Magnolia Ascot, then I think that would actually suffice and actually, you know, meet that need in my wardrobe. But there are a couple of scarves I did like, but I didn't add them in here. And the other thing that I don't have in my capsule wardrobe for autumn winter is socks, because I don't make them. But I acknowledge that other people do, so if you want to add a sock to your capsule wardrobe staples collection, then feel free, but you won't find any in my bundle. So I've been talking now for 1 hour 50, so this is going to be an editing nightmare. And what do you care? I don't even know if I've recorded any audio. I really hope that it has. I'll die if it hasn't. If you like this video, then press like. If you've been here before and you're back again and you're not subscribed, then I'd love it if you subscribed. That would really help a girl out. If you've made any of these patterns or have any of these patterns on your own wish list or queue, then leave me a comment and let me know which ones you have made or would like to make. I'd love to know. And as always, thank you for watching. Super appreciate you and you being here. I'll be back soon with a normal podcast episode with progress on all my whips. I've got some ideas for future videos, including a whip audit. That'll be a long one. There's a lot of those. And I started recording when it was daylight. It is now pitch black dark, so I better go and make some dinner. What have you been making? My mate's coming over on Sunday, Donna. We're going to do a knit and chat, so I'll have a spare video up my sleeve. What are you doing? I'm thinking about calling my whip audit episode, thinking about naming it Root Shoot Marry, and going through my whips and giving them the Root Shoot Marry test. Do you think that'll get me cancelled? If you know, you know. My humour's not everybody's cup of tea. Pretzel and I are really comfy sitting here in a little chair with this camera, talking to you guys. I could just literally sit here for the next couple of hours, get my knitting out and just witter away. But unfortunately, I haven't eaten much today. Do you know what I'm going to make for dinner? I'm going to try and make a Scotch egg. High protein, flavourful, mince, eggs, breadcrumbs, fried. Yum. I think I might get up and go and do that. Then I'm going to put this and try and edit this into some semblance of meaning. Anyway, she's got a burr. I'm pulling a burr out of her fur. I got it. Ready? Look. I just pulled that out of the dog's fur. Poor thing, that couldn't have been very comfortable for you. You silly, you should brush yourself. All right, come on, let's go and have some dinner. And you, my friend, take it easy. Hold your knitting to a high standard, but really give yourself a break with everything else. And I will see you next time. Bye.